Inside Story Uganda. Real source of political
minerals. When you see Baganda and Basoka going Jawi, it's dangerous. Nabaganti in Noop, what they are yap, and then you can somebody which are causing. To bad the name why a feta in a man, you got fettuji man, until Noop see Avan. Nege to Kumira Kukuban, Katika Sumba against a Jikuba. Because I get a shagam, cut together could have our leaders. When you get a headless revolution in Jacoban Binu. Chovola, the Muhos Bamukuba. Muhos move bitari. Bako le Chibinacha, which have be Bachita Fellowship, which is more than Tungachu. Muhos taking Muslim member watch. That's why they fear. I remember Maji. Together, Kumuavira Maji. Oh, never was Never said Jamu Muri Mere. Never was such a position. Never gone. Omuntu eyazalibwanga alina ekyomukazi n'omusajja bwazza omusango bamusibira mu kkomerasi omusiba n'abakazi ekyomusajja kibatiramu omusiba n'abasajja ng'alina ekyomukazi bamutta kati omusibira mu kkomerasi
simanyi wateekwa okubaayo balina obbazimbira agaabwe
ane bwebagatta basatu bayinza okukyekolako ng'ekkomo munaaba musajja
kasita bonna baba
bafaanagana when Museveni nze nababuulira nembaga nti gurupu yammwe yegenda si Museveni why Museveni talina kyabbi people know it Detroit season nabwe tuzigoba obuufu bwammwe mumubbi the fellowship nabaga nti mafia tejja kumalako why mafia ya Italy yabonyabonya Italy emyaka 5 naye yazimba Italy abesisiri ba mafia ensi teyinza kubbibwa bubbiwa mafia yawano yotebba kati zonna sente zebali batadde ebweru babateddeko 12 bands tebalina kantu basamye bati kyovulaba sente zifuluma naye abantu obusungu bubali bubi nabagaye nti okumanya muli basiru Museveni olwokusifula nawandika akatabo kange kati ako kalabye ka 212 nandika akatabo kange mu 217 nembagamba nti obusika bwa Museveni bujja kubamu okuyiwa omusaayi nembaga waayi if tule mutuuse ku kazu akazu kitegeeza ti politics adda mu family izudda akazu twakajja mu Bible Kaini ya Taberi the moment a woman undermines her co-wives children nebavaawo ne bonooneka the rival enters the family how batting kuba basigaddewo bokka in fact it's very unique in Uganda nti aboogerwako lwaboogo where do you find this in Africa that after the president has worked over 40 years akyasobola n'okuofalinga ensi kakati mutani wa Makosa akomyewo Makosa abantu bamutwala Misiri why disappointment tiamini nga singa teyafana akuma kati endulu zivuga mutani wa Bota asobola okuwangula akalulu because subsequent impairs have proved tibemwavumiranga bali bisobola okukola ki okukolebwa omwana wa Makosi gwe batwala emisinde awangudde akalulu Philippines why bategedde abantu be Philippines ti obwavu tebuba bwa Museveni ne bw'omujjawo obwavu busobola okubeerawo enkya esobola okubeerawo kakati bakomyewo obuyinza bukomyewo mu Bamakosi naye nabagambye ti Museveni n'okusifa Baganda have a problem nti if you live longer you bury on children abali badde abasika ba Museveni bonna baweddewo Bidandi Kategaya Gundi Mbabazi but nfunza abo baki they are wasted bazze bakubagana entalo kukyusa Kisanja Bidandi mwe yagendera ne Kategaya kukola ki mwe bagendedde bonna ne baggwawo kakati abasigaddewo basekendi kyenezeeso bagenda okuhandingira ofu kati nze nenkola summary One, to whom, what are the catchment areas of a success? One, from the family. Given the conditions around, nga Museveni alabe kuba Mugabe, n'alaba kuba Bashir, nti kati yali mu kkomera, n'alaba kuba Mubaraka, n'alaba ku ki, embeera nga bweri. Tayinza tasobola kugambulinga na succession. Omuntu yenna atamuwulira tajja mu kubayiza emikyayi kasi oyomba naye nga biwedde takuweerako ddala. That's one. Two, kazi kyena bagambye nti ogenda mu kkooti okuwaba mbusimayi bategule bawaaba. Lwaki omusajja gwoga nti yafa baatule ate bwatwala mukazi w'omulooji okumukuula olayenduulu? If Moses does not have support, then what's this effort?
Tamale. Ebintu bibiri byanjawulo.
Besigye. You are saying that the man is impotent. Why do you complain that he's taking your wife into a lodge?
No, petition ya Tegula nti mpuliriza. Petition ya Tegule. Teri kumanyi oba bunafu bwa General Muhoozi. Constitutionalism. Yagamba nti amateeka gateekwa okugobererwa. Tweyama nti Uganda twagiza mikono gy'amateeka. Awaaba nti serving army officer okukola statements ez'ebyobufuzi.
Example gye nakwata ogitegedde.
Nedda kangamale akugamba nti statements General Muhoozi z'akola zikontana n'amateeka kubanga yasavinga army officer ku ddala eryawaggulu ate n'ababiri Anthony General ne CDF abandi mugambyeko nabo tebamugambako tebatuukiriza vunaanyizibwa. Nedda ssebo leka tovuma, just challenge him.
Omuntu alina ebyaba biri omukola otya n'ogaa nti tewali kye bamukola. It's difficult. Muhoozi being an army general, he is an advisor on special duties which are not defined, distributed to the army.
But next statement is accurate as advisory. Byayogera ebimuvuna
oba advisor special duties butegeeza ki? Bina maaso tebiraba. Why didn't you complain?
Anti kakati chovola banetegule yagenze mu constitutional court. Aina amagezi aina nnyo yensonga lwaki yagenze mu constitutional court. Kati constitutional court etubuulire nti ono aina ekyabakazi n'ekyabasajja oba bw'aba abiina aina bikozesa atya. Ati kyekyamutute mu constitutional court.
Where his limits as an advisor on special duties? What are special duties? What are special duties?
Kakati
defined by who?
Special duties kola pate noyogera nti noyogera ku byokwesimba.
Yagende Rwanda.
Era ebyo teri abitunulidde mu petition ya Tegula ebyo tebiriimu ebyo.
Yayita muki kana name office agandi negotiate on behalf of a country awe awati wo. If we are at war, would be Muhoozi or the army commander or a delegation from the army. Museveni akubalanga Museveni yabagamba tumina vision in Uganda. A vision in the political science is an idea you have today that whose fruits will be realized in a period of less than 20 years. Museveni again in 69 in Mozambique okuyiga emundu ng'ategedde nti emundu yejja okulamula wano. Yamala kula Gabriel yambulira ko nti bali bobulu bwa kinana. Which one came first? He listed his son. Special duties, define special duties. Is the commander ambadi. I'm a commander and advisor on special duties.
Kakati yanti Tamale. Omusajja ono lwaki tomuleka because ogamba define special duties. Omusajja ono lwaki tomuleka labayo musonge embere naye uliriza kati
taina batule kati ekikubye lulunga mukazi wo akula taina batule kiki baleka anti taina kyagenda
nange ngabo
obola nja nakitegeeza batule kweri
nange ngabo obuzize ekyo nange mpu mu kisambuuze kino nti nga bw'obuziza ekyo nti ekikubye endulungo ga musajja talina batule kiki kati naye kambuuze kino kaakati ekikubye endulu linda no ekikubye endulu kiki kubanga ogambye define special duties omusajja agenze where special duties gye balina zidefiningira agenze mu constitutional court defining ate naawe ogamba define. Why don't you give court time to define?
obwadvisor tebuliko qualifications tebuyitana mu parliament lwaki bakikola bwe bati how did they do it?
Anti wa advisor tekitegeeza tebetaaga qualification.
Public service. These are political issues which you don't need. One can use it katenga bola sinze nagana sobola kubeera advisor yawera ofeyo omuntu afune kyalya kati atenze nkyali fibula nsigenda ku nyumba nzadde ensambya nze nkyakola nkyalina omutwe gwange ogukola siza kugenda ku advisor sikisobola. I can't be an advisor, I cannot be an RDC, cannot be an ambassador, I cannot be a minister. I want my freedom. Maybe over minister ngeze mbaka wa parliament ngewa for 27 years when I'm 75 as a soft landing. But now to be controlled, once you get married you lose your liberties. Atova kuogera nyoko byantumye jikube nkuvume byota kuliranga.
Towe muli lawana.
And I'm enjoying my freedom. I got independence in 1914. I cannot lose that independence. Katile chengamba batebule. Timu political science tuina politics wa bikabi busy. The politics of activity and the politics of achievement. In many cases, Ugandan politicians engage in the politics of activity. Tibajine chibajamu. Tilikuwagone segona. Bagenze mu parliament, bagenze mu court, bafune injunction, emirize, parliament ingetezo. Parliament wali ayina buyinza bujibizange eri mu session. Era bwe baba nga adjournment, speaker ayita mulyango mulala. Bwe baba nga bagenze sign die, speaker yagiyita yonge kyabatwalayo bakikomezaawo. Balukwago bayite bakimanyi. Nti kakati ebina bikubeeko akalu baba na Uganda basala buje tulaga. Abati basemugere bagamba right tekubwako kalulu ate bamama luganti bikomewo ne bawujja. This is not the first time I'm seeing people wasting time. Yes, changing the term limits we had. Esegenda kutabuka esejja kutabuka yatabukawo Tamale 75 year cap yeah esejja kutabuka yatabukawo.
Katugende mawulire tukome wano.
Bwobanga obadde kyetutya kimu president kumugana naye standby generator afumudde enfuufu standby generator amaanyi gayina nze nkoke wange bakanyuka bukanyuza embuzi anti nze gateway to generator
bakuba standby generator yaliwa
muhozi
ye standby
generator eno bwenzike tetuyina we tulwirawo automatically yeteka kuyoka
naye muli serious
kati waliwo abagenda okusula nga baddukana nga bayina ekivubuto nga banywedde ekivubuto waliwo abagenda
Tamale njagala kubuuza
ne poti mu nyumba
muli serious ku project yeno
yagize bugizibwa ati yebayika yagize kiprizio wali walu tolaba Besigye
mujagala ddi
wakiraba red paper kye yakoze walaba red paper kye yakoze
mujagala
red paper yagambye nti gundi ziri nti two horse race gundi muhozi agenda kuvuga nyani Besigye avuddeyo Besigye avuddeyo gasumba ate ye nakuba nupu ate Besigye avuddeyo
mwagala kigusa mukaddako oba kalala teriko budde manyi tutunula kubiri mu kamu ku butabu bwe tuba tusazeewo olwalira leese ke yafulumya 2012 omwezi gwa musanvu Invisible Hand yangambye some wano wali omutwe ogukwata ku State Council bw'obanga wakafunako ng'okayina ogoberera osobola okukabikula mu kogwa 23 omutwe gugamba Musisi and the Invisible Hand in KCCA. Okay, tutandise. agamba bwati, there is a Kiganda proverb which says that leka emandwe tule nga kyeyalagula kituukiridde, meaning that a diviner is accorded respect if what he predicted comes to pass. When I published my book on KCCA and predicted that Musisi's policies in Kampala were driven by money, not improvement, and therefore were bound to fail, it was dismissed as malice against Musisi. However, what I predicted at that early time when everybody was praising Musisi has come to pass. Why did I see what men did not see? This is explainable by another Luganda proverb which says wewombesenge gole eriribe jombi, meaning that a bride who appears humble makes you believe that she will make a good wife, but she is hiding her real character. You should take a difference between genuine humbleness and mere pretense. Therefore, I was able to tell that Musisi was operating on pretense and deception. However, many people failed to understand this. To many, Musisi was doing what others had failed to do. She also captured the usually gullible media. Uganda's media, unlike their counterparts elsewhere, is dominated by comedians and untrained personnel who can accept either to work without pay or be paid the little money their employers can afford. The trained journalists are too few to influence the media output. Many moderators, except a few, are comedians. Secondly, we have a group of phone-in callers who are given numbers to call in FM programs. They are paid for this service to influence what is discussed on these talk shows to the gullible society. In other countries, the media sets the agenda and hence shapes public opinion. Agenda setting empowers the media to identify the most important topics to be discussed by the society. Such a media must be credible to influence society. In Uganda, it's money which determines what is discussed by the media and hence its output. Musisi's undoing was her open support from the president. This created two problems for her. Number one, she could not listen to advice from anybody, whoever important it was. She was only answerable to the president, and she did not hesitate to invoke the president's name to ward off her enemies, real or imaginary. This attracted the president's enemies within the government to her to undermine Museveni through Musisi's directives without detection. It was therefore not a mistake for people to attribute Musisi's mistakes to Museveni. For them, it was not Musisi who was chasing away the hawkers from the city. It was Museveni. Musisi was not demolishing their houses, but this was a directive from Museveni. Musisi was not responsible for disorganizing markets. No, it was Museveni himself. This trick worked very well, for the victims of Musisi's policies blamed Museveni for their plight. Interestingly, Musisi wrongly believed that saying that she was implementing Museveni's policies in Kampala was helping her, but helped Museveni's enemies. She usually bragged that whatever she does or did in Kampala was discussed with the president before it was implemented. Museveni's political enemies, both in government and outside, took advantage of Musisi's political blunders. Finally, ever since it was decided that the central government would take over Kampala, the two fighting groups in the government started scheming to outsmart each other. The reason for this is that they had discovered that many leases in the city had expired. However, some of the land had been occupied by organized groups like markets and tax parks. These were the most marketable land in terms of value, with more investors looking for land, grabbing those expired leases looked very attractive. They would sell this grabbed land to the government at higher or exorbitant prices. This is why compensation took center stage. Government could be duped into paying huge amounts for this land to give it to investors. The scheming started by ousting the town clerk Besigye. He was arrested and charged with fraud. Besigye had been targeted by the stealing group because before joining local government, he was a senior IS operative. Such a person could not be trusted by the stealing group in government who wanted to grab all land. Besigye's mistake was to put city council funds from the Ministry of Local Government on personal accounts. The stealing group enticed him into a trap, and Besigye failed to realize the trick. It started with Uganda Revenue Authority, which took control of council accounts for ostensibly non-payment of Kampala taxes. This is the time when the Ministry of Local Government released the 1 billion shillings to Kampala City Council. Why do you release money to a council without operating accounts? Why was it released at this time when KCC could not access its accounts? Why did the Ministry of Local Government decide to pay KCC in cash? Because a check signed in KCC names could not be cashed on an individual account. This was a bait which Besigye eagerly swallowed. Besigye was later acquitted, but the job had already gone and his reputation damaged. He was replaced by Kijambu, who was also trapped. All the town clerks who could not play ball with the grabbers were removed in a row, but the invisible hand that was being there sucking remained in hiding. The invisible hand used the Haji Besigye as their foot soldier, which the stealing group normally does. They used Baganda or another tribesman to fight their proxy wars against their fellow tribes. Besigye was used to fight fellow Baganda. The group that wanted to take over Kampala took advantage of the standoff between Besigye and Kijambu by siding with Besigye, promising him free acquisition of the house. It was Haji Besigye who fought their war like a hunting dog. Besigye plotted and kicked out Kijambu, who was replaced by the short-lived Namawerere, without realizing that he was a hunting dog for the stealing group. He did not get the house he wanted to grab. His osters were also interested in it. The groups that were scheming did not want Namawerere. He had worked in Mbarara, and experience shows that such people who previously worked in Mbarara have access to Rakitura and hence the president. These people are considered as Museveni's agents who report directly to him as spies in their new assignments. Such fellows cannot be trusted. They can leak the information to the president. This is why Museveni's supporters are targeted by the stealing group. The stealing group targeted Namayanja Sebagala's deputy, who was likely to become the new mayor. Namayanja was not trusted by any of the two scheming groups. She was given financial assistance to relocate to Bukoto East to defeat Alintuma Nsambu. Nsambu was rigged out by a team from the Electoral Commission to pave way for Florence Namayanja. Namayanja's exit paved way for the group to grab Kampala by the stealing group. The group wanted Elias Lukwago, Mike Mabike, forcing the latter to lose interest in the parliamentary elections. His constituency was later taken over by Omulangira Simbwa. Mabike did not defend his seat with the backing of the stealing group. Mabike wrongly believed that the mayorship was a walkover. This explains why Peter Sematimba lost the mayorship. Sematimba was undermined by a rival NRM faction for two reasons. Number one, Sematimba, like Namawerere, could access its state house in case he was subjected to pressure by one of the scheming groups. Sematimba had composed the NRM national anthem and appeared to be close to the president, whom he usually referred to as Nanyini Sente, the owner of money in Uganda. Number two, he was a known supporter of one of the leaders of the two rival groups, sensing that in case both Lukwago and Mabike competed against Sematimba, he would decisively defeat them. They turned the fire to Lukwago, arguing that he lacked academic qualifications, which failed miserably. Lukwago allies in the judiciary maintained that he had the papers. However, Lukwago lacked campaign funds, and this explains why on election day he did not have representatives on 1,000 polling stations. It was because of this reason that Namboze brought people from Mukono to act as Lukwago's agents. These were volunteers because Lukwago was a pauper. However, the group that did not want Sematimba leaked valuable information to the Lukwago group through Segona that some ballot boxes had been stuffed. The boxes had already been sent to several polling stations, were impounded by the police, which embarrassed the NRM. This is what forced the commission, which itself is influenced by one of the fighting groups in government, to suspend the election in the middle of the exercise. Sematimba was leading with a very big margin. The stealing group, which wanted to grab Kampala, celebrated victory over Sematimba. This gave two political blows to Sematimba. One, he was exposed as an election thief. However, he did not participate in the planning and execution of the ballot stuffing exercise. It was done by some of his campaigners who had stolen the money for the campaigning and hoped to win by rigging. The stealing group registered another victory without being exposed. Most importantly, the president had won by a clear majority in this clean election. This Sematimba scandal would be utilized by the opposition to dent the president's victory. This affected Sematimba's political career. The president could not tolerate this indiscipline from a candidate sponsored by his political party. Another victory for the thieves against Sematimba. Musisi, if the president appointed Musisi to clean and reorganize the city, the rival groups in his government had a different role for her. Their mission was to grab land and had nothing to do with cleanliness in the city. Why did the two groups want to grab everything on site? The matter is simple. They have a wrong perception about the role of money in politics and democratic governance. They have exaggerated the role of money in a poor society, which attributes its poverty or plight on corruption and bad government, not economic policies. They are aware that the poor Ugandans believe that in order to overcome this poverty, there should be a change in leadership. The rivaling groups, therefore, wrongly believe that they will control Uganda's politics by money. You can buy members of the NRM Delegates Conference and kick out Museveni. You can use stinking wealth to control parliament and the NRM leaders at all levels. They can influence parliament by buying MPs to impeach the president. They also invested heavily in turning the media in Uganda to target the president as solely responsible for the current woes. They can influence and control the media by using their money. They have partly succeeded in influencing the media, including government media outlets. Some government media outlets serve the president's enemies, not himself. Money has helped them to influence the Electoral Commission. It has helped them to sustain factions within the ruling party. Money has helped them to win elections for themselves and political allies, not to campaign for the president. They have established strong networks for themselves. They can influence church sermons by buying off religious leaders. They control the media. They have also realized that Museveni's biggest weakness is his attitude towards money politics. Museveni does not believe in money politics and checkbook journalism. In fact, if you want to undermine the president, use money politics and checkbook journalism. After the elections and the removal of Professor Gilbert Bukenya, the rivalry in government intensified. They looked at this election as Museveni's last lap. With the revolution of North Africa, the demise of Muammar Gaddafi sent shivers in the spines of the two groups. They feared to allow a situation that sweeps them from power with Museveni. They wanted to sacrifice Museveni and retain power and protect their wealth. They wrongly looked at Museveni as a political liability who should be removed in order to cool the rising tempers from Ugandans. This would provide them with what we call political socialization, where a ruling group does not lose power at once or surgical operation. You only remove the president. However, they overlooked four important factors. Ugandans know the thieves, and therefore members of the stealing group cannot remove Museveni and retain power. It will just spark off a revolution against themselves, and they will lose what they jealously want to protect and retain. In fact, Ugandans want Museveni to deal with the thieves, not the thieves to deal with Museveni. In this primitive acquisition of wealth, the stealing group has left a trail leading to their homes. Ugandans know who has stolen. What Ugandans are only encouraging the stealing group to overthrow Museveni. If they succeed, this would weaken them like Paul Mwanga or Bote scenario. After removing Museveni, Ugandans will grab the thieves like grasshoppers and kill them. In villages, the people follow up the trail to capture the village thief. Therefore, Ugandans know who is stealing from them and what has been stolen. No trail leads to Museveni. Museveni has not stolen anything from the public. He is always on the side of the peasants. The stealing group has tried to heap everything on Museveni, which has failed because the trails left behind by the thieves do not lead to Museveni's home. The problem with the two groups is that they have failed to create permanent allies. You cannot create permanent allies by using money. Permanent allies are based on ideology, not money. Otherwise, why do people get married instead of relying on prostitutes? Also, they use people and dump them once the mission is over. They do not spare business, including those of their allies. They worship one God, and this God is money. They are inward-looking, considering members of their families. Unlike the president who helps Ugandans through universal programs, the stealing group wants to grab from the population, believing that they are inciting the population against the president. They use crude methods to grab businesses. Finally, they cannot trust anybody apart from themselves to protect their interests. Call it stinking wealthy in a post-Museveni era. This means that it's only a member from their other group who can be trusted with protecting their wealth, since they have stolen from the people who will reclaim their wealth anytime they fear a situation that removes them from political influence. This is a grave mistake and miscalculation. No political group can ensure that it will control the politics of a country perpetually. The Italian mafias tried this and failed. Drug traffickers in Latin America also failed. It will be like saying that it's only your wife in the world who is capable of cooking your meals. What will happen if she dies? Politics rotates around alliances. In my book, A Marriage Based on Witchcraft, I pointed out that unlike in Kenya, where the colonial government left assets to the ruling class to grab, in Uganda, the stealing group is grabbing from the population. Stealing from the population is not sustainable. It's like a bomb which will explode with a devastating impact anytime. It's not sustainable, ladies and gentlemen. Stealing of markets, tax packs, evicting people from their bibanjas will explode very soon. It would have exploded long ago if the president did not put in place alleviating measures like UPE and USE and prosperity for all and stringent measures against massive evictions. Therefore, it's not surprising that Mosisi became a tool of the stealing group, well knowing, or by accident, she ended up operating on their instructions. Those of us who look at things critically, we see evidence of traits of the stealing group in her decisions and their implementations. For example, eviction of General Tinyefuza from the house. It was not done to recover the house to KCCA, no. it was intended to give the house to a member of the stealing group.
Yes.
Bili kubinebili. Reorientation was decongesting Kampala.
Kakati kwa tachiraba bango ba mubili kumibili nani mazuba muri ya muliro ngabo mbane bagamba tibesi ya koma. You see, a country, society is a decent woman. A decent woman fears one thing most: rape. Abasajja tebakimanyi nti abakazi batya bakwata. Trauma gyafuna is imaginary. It is not tosobola kugirowooza atali woman. Some women even commit suicide. Kali ngoyo omukazi gwe bagamba Winifred Smith opola mu America was molested. Musajja muyambisanga muto yakyawa abasajja. Kabende society yagala kujiba abantu bano babadde nobba amata nobba enyuma nobba amaliba ne mutabaala ennyanja ne mubba ennuuni ne mugitwala ne mufuuka bamukazi ne badduka ne bagenda ebusoga ne babba ebikajjo by'abasoga byalayi ne badduka n'obujozi bwabwe ne beeyongerayo abanyola enzizi z'amafuta si banyolo bebali ne badduka n'obujozi ne balaga munooza ne Uganda ettaka ne baliwamba baali eyo ne badduka ne bagenda kalamu